The boardroom was silent except for the rhythmic tapping of her pen against the mahogany table. Across from her, the executives of Paxton Global sat stiff-backed in their leather chairs, their faces a mixture of discomfort and thinly veiled triumph. The air conditioning hummed too loudly, or perhaps it was just her heightened awareness of every sound in this moment that made it seem oppressive. "You've been an invaluable asset to this company," Mr. Whitaker began, his voice carrying that practiced tone of corporate regret. "But given the current market conditions and our need to streamline operations..." His words trailed off as he pushed a single sheet of paper across the table toward her. She didn't need to look at it. She already knew what it said. 3 years of building Paxton Global's digital division from scratch, of working 80-hour weeks, of missing birthdays and holidays, of fighting tooth and nail against competitors, all reduced to a 12% salary reduction. The irony burned like acid in her throat. Just last quarter, she presented their billion-dollar profit report to these same executives. Her name was Sofia Alvarez, though they rarely used her first name anymore. To them, she was just the talent who could be thanked with a handshake and a pat on the back while they collected their bonuses. Her fingers tightened around the pen until her knuckles turned white. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind the executives, Manhattan stretched out beneath them, oblivious to this betrayal unfolding in the 32nd floor conference room. "I understand if you need time to process this," Mrs. Hargrove added, her perfectly manicured hands folded primly in front of her. Sophia wanted to laugh at the absurdity of that statement. Process what, exactly? The fact that she'd been effectively demoted after making these people richer than they'd ever dreamed? That her innovative strategies had transformed their outdated corporation into a tech powerhouse, only to be rewarded with a pay cut? Instead of responding immediately, Sophia let her eyes drift over each member of the executive team. She catalogued their expressions: Mr. Whitaker's forced sympathy, Mrs. Hargrove's calculated neutrality, young Mr. Patel's barely concealed excitement at finally having one less powerful woman to contend with. They were all waiting for her reaction, probably expecting tears or angry protests. What they got was something far more dangerous. With deliberate slowness, Sophia placed the pen down on the table. "Thank you for your transparency," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "I'll take the weekend to consider my options." She stood up before they could respond, gathering her documents with measured movements. As she walked toward the door, she could feel their eyes boring into her back, but she didn't turn around. She couldn't afford to show any weakness now. In the elevator descending to the lobby, Sophia's reflection stared back at her from the polished metal doors. The woman looking back wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, her dark hair pulled into its usual sleek ponytail. To anyone else, she probably looked like just another corporate drone heading home after a long day. But inside, something had shifted. A spark had ignited in her chest, burning away years of doubt and second-guessing herself. She remembered the first day she'd walked into Paxton Global, fresh-faced and eager, believing in their promise of opportunity and growth. They'd hired her straight out of graduate school, impressed by her thesis on integrating artificial intelligence into traditional business models. At 24, she'd been thrilled to have her ideas taken seriously by industry veterans. How naive she'd been to think they actually cared about innovation, rather than just using her vision to stay relevant. The lobby was bustling with Friday evening traffic as Sophia stepped out onto Fifth Avenue. The late spring air carried the scent of blooming flowers mixed with city exhaust, a reminder that life continued moving forward regardless of personal setbacks. Her phone buzzed incessantly in her bag, no doubt filled with messages from colleagues wondering why she'd left the office so early. Normally, she would have stayed late, catching up on emails and preparing for Monday's meetings. Not today. As she walked through the crowded streets, snippets of conversations drifted past her ears. Young professionals discussed their weekend plans, tourists debated restaurant choices, street vendors called out their specials. Each sound seemed to amplify the distance between her old life and whatever lay ahead. For the first time in years, Sophia felt truly untethered, not lost, but free from the constraints that had held her back. At 42nd Street, she paused to watch the chaos of Times Square unfold before her. Neon lights flashed against the twilight sky, advertising everything from Broadway shows to smartphone upgrades. Among the sea of faces, she spotted a young woman holding a sign that read "Your dreams are valid." The irony wasn't lost on Sophia. Here she was, standing at the crossroads of her own dreams, wondering if she'd had the courage to pursue them all along. Her mind drifted back to the countless times she'd suggested launching their own AI-powered platform instead of relying on third-party solutions. Each proposal had been met with polite dismissal or outright rejection. "Let's focus on what we know," they'd say, while simultaneously praising her for bringing in record profits using those very same innovations. Now she understood why they'd kept her close but never fully empowered. They needed her ideas without threatening their control. The realization hit her like a freight train. These people weren't just afraid of change, they were terrified of being replaced by the very progress they claimed to embrace. And now, when push came to shove, they chose to diminish her rather than risk losing their comfortable positions of power. It wasn't just about the money, though God knows a 12% pay cut after 3 years of exceptional performance was insulting enough. This was about control, about maintaining the status quo even as the world evolved around them. Sophia's pace quickened as she navigated the crowded sidewalks. Her thoughts raced faster than her feet, connecting dots she'd been too busy or too loyal to see before. The late-night strategy sessions where she'd essentially rewritten their entire business model. The industry awards that credited the company while mentioning her name only in passing. The investors who praised Paxton Global's visionary approach, completely unaware that their vision was sitting in a cubicle 2 floors below the executive suite. By the time she reached her apartment in Chelsea, anger had transformed into something more potent: determination. She dropped her bag on the kitchen counter and poured herself a glass of wine, but instead of drinking it, she stared out at the city lights. From this vantage point, she could see dozens of other apartments, each containing people living their own stories of struggle and triumph. Somewhere out there were others like her, brilliant minds stifled by corporate politics, waiting for their chance to break free. For years, she'd convinced herself that patience was a virtue, that playing by the rules would eventually lead to recognition and reward. But tonight, staring at the glittering skyline, Sophia understood that some systems were never meant to reward true innovation. They were designed to maintain the hierarchy, to keep people like her in their place while those at the top reaped the benefits of their work. Her phone buzzed again, and this time she picked it up. Scrolling through her contacts, she found the number she'd been meaning to call for months. Dr. Chen, the AI researcher whose startup she'd been quietly advising on weekends. He'd been trying to get funding for his revolutionary machine learning platform, but traditional investors kept turning him away. At the time, she'd thought helping him was just a way to stay connected to cutting-edge technology. Now she saw it for what it really was, a lifeline waiting to be grasped. The wine remained untouched as Sophia opened her laptop. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up files and notes she'd accumulated over the years. Ideas she'd shelved because they were too ambitious for Paxton Global. Strategies she'd developed but never fully implemented. Contact lists of brilliant minds she'd met at conferences and networking events, people who shared her vision but lacked the resources to make it reality. As midnight approached, Sophia realized she hadn't moved from her desk in hours. Her apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of her computer and the distant sounds of the city. On the screen in front of her, a rough framework was taking shape, not just a business plan, but a declaration of independence. Every line of code, every algorithm, every innovative concept she'd been forced to compromise on was finding new life in this digital space. The initial spark of anger had evolved into something far more complex and powerful. It wasn't just about revenge or proving Paxton Global wrong, though those thoughts certainly fueled her late-night coding sessions. This was about creating something pure, something that belonged entirely to her and those who shared her vision. Each keystroke felt like reclaiming a piece of herself that had been slowly eroded by corporate bureaucracy. Her phone vibrated with incoming messages, but she ignored them. Instead, she opened a secure document where she'd been secretly compiling data about Paxton Global's digital infrastructure. Not classified information, nothing illegal, but detailed observations about their vulnerabilities, their blind spots, their stubborn refusal to adapt to emerging technologies. These weren't just weaknesses, they were opportunities waiting to be exploited by someone with the right vision and resources. The more she worked, the clearer her path became. She wouldn't just start another tech company. New York was already saturated with startups promising to revolutionize industries. No, this would be different. This would be a movement, a complete reimagining of how artificial intelligence could transform business operations. The algorithms she developed during sleepless nights at Paxton Global could finally reach their full potential, unencumbered by conservative board members and quarterly profit expectations. Her network of contacts proved invaluable as the night wore on. A text message to Maria, her former Stanford classmate now leading a prominent venture capital firm, received an immediate response. "About time you did something for yourself," Maria wrote back. When do we meet? Another message went to James, the cybersecurity expert who'd always warned her about Paxton Global's outdated security protocols. His reply was equally enthusiastic, finally ready to build something real. As the first light of dawn crept through her windows, Sophia found herself smiling for the first time in what felt like ages. This wasn't just about starting a new company, it was about creating a new paradigm. The pieces were falling into place with startling clarity. Dr. Chen's machine learning platform could serve as the foundation, Maria's funding could provide the initial capital, James could ensure their security infrastructure was light years ahead of anything Paxton Global could muster. The irony wasn't lost on her. Paxton Global had spent years benefiting from her ability to identify and exploit market gaps, never realizing they were creating their own greatest vulnerability. Now she would use that same skill set to dismantle their dominance in the tech sector. Not through sabotage or underhanded tactics, but by simply being better, faster, and more innovative than they could ever hope to be. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a news alert. Paxton Global's stock had dipped slightly overnight following rumors of internal restructuring. The article mentioned streamlining operations and optimizing human resources, corporate euphemisms that made her smile widen. They were already showing signs of weakness, and she hadn't even begun her assault yet. Opening a new document, Sophia started drafting what would become her manifesto. Not just a business plan, but a declaration of intent. She wrote about the future of artificial intelligence, about creating technology that served humanity rather than corporate bottom lines. About building a company culture that valued innovation over tradition, merit over seniority, vision over complacency. Each word felt like planting a seed in fertile ground, knowing it would grow into something magnificent. The sun was fully risen now, painting the city in golden light. Outside her window, New York City stirred to life, oblivious to the revolution being planned in this quiet Chelsea apartment. Sophia minimized her work windows and opened her calendar. Meetings needed to be scheduled, partnerships needed to be formalized, legal structures needed to be established. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in years, she felt truly alive. Her phone buzzed one final time. It was Dr. Chen, calling early as promised. Sophia, he began, his voice filled with cautious excitement, are you ready to change the game? She smiled as she answered, watching the city wake up to a new day. More ready than I've ever been. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of strategic planning and clandestine meetings. By Sunday evening, Sophia's Chelsea apartment had transformed into a command center, with whiteboards covered in algorithms, flowcharts mapping out competitive advantages, and sticky notes detailing crucial milestones. Her dining table groaned under the weight of technical specifications and market analysis reports. Yet amidst this organized chaos, a clear vision emerged, one that would not only challenge Paxton Global's dominance but redefine the entire industry landscape. Dr. Chan arrived precisely at 7 o'clock, carrying his trademark satchel filled with prototype components and encrypted hard drives. His usually calm demeanor crackled with barely contained enthusiasm as he spread out his latest developments across Sophia's coffee table. This neural network architecture can process data streams 60% faster than anything currently on the market, he explained, his fingers tracing complex patterns on his tablet. Combine that with your optimization algorithms, and we're looking at a quantum leap in efficiency. Maria's video conference call connected moments later, her face appearing on the large monitor mounted above the fireplace. I've reviewed your preliminary figures, she announced, adjusting her designer glasses. Not only is this viable, but it's potentially disruptive on a scale we haven't seen since the early days of cloud computing. Behind her, the San Francisco skyline glowed in the evening light, a subtle reminder of the tech world's traditional power base. We'll need to structure the funding carefully, make it look like multiple smaller investments coming from different sources. Keeps the sharks from circling too early. James materialized through the front door precisely at 8, his arrival timed like clockwork. Unlike the others, he preferred face-to-face meetings, especially when discussing sensitive matters. I've mapped Paxton's entire security infrastructure, he reported, pulling up a holographic display from his wrist device. Their firewalls are still running on 5-year-old protocols. We can launch simultaneous decoy attacks on their legacy systems while implementing our quantum encryption on the back end. They won't know what hit them until it's too late. The group gathered around the central workstation, their combined expertise creating a synergy that sent shivers down Sophia's spine. This wasn't just a team, it was a precision instrument, each member perfectly attuned to the other's strengths and specialties. As they worked through the night, the plan crystallized into something both elegant and devastatingly effective. "We'll start by targeting their most vulnerable clients," Maria suggested, her voice taking on the tone of a general plotting a campaign. "The ones who've been asking for more advanced analytics but getting stonewalled by Paxton's antiquated systems. Offer them a trial period with our enhanced platform, then gradually increase functionality as we demonstrate superior results." Sophia nodded, adding notes to the master strategy document. "Simultaneously, we'll leverage my contacts in the academic research community. Many of them have been frustrated by Paxton's refusal to implement cutting-edge algorithms. We'll position ourselves as the company that listens to experts, not just shareholders." "The media angle is crucial," James interjected, his fingers flying across his keyboard. "We'll plant stories about Paxton's declining innovation metrics. Nothing overt, just enough to make investors nervous. Meanwhile, we'll showcase our breakthroughs through carefully orchestrated leaks to tech journals and industry influencers." Dr. Chen leaned back in his chair, his eyes gleaming with the intensity of a scientist witnessing the birth of a new discovery. "The beauty of this approach is that it's not malicious. We're simply doing what Paxton should have done years ago. Only we're doing it better, faster, and with genuine commitment to technological advancement." By midnight, the basic framework of their operation was complete. They would establish their headquarters in a converted warehouse in Brooklyn's tech district, positioning themselves as the antithesis of corporate conformity. The company name, Algorithmic Ascension, reflected both their technological focus and their mission to rise above traditional limitations. Sophia took a moment to review their timeline. In 3 months, they would quietly launch their beta platform with select clients. 6 months after that, they would go public with a series of demonstrations that would make Paxton's offerings look positively archaic. Within a year, they aimed to capture 20% of Paxton's market share, not through aggressive competition, but by providing a superior product that spoke for itself. Their marketing strategy would focus on authenticity and transparency. No more hidden fees or proprietary restrictions. Clients would have unprecedented access to their own data and analytics. The user interface would be intuitive enough for non-technical managers to understand, yet sophisticated enough to satisfy the most demanding data scientists. Most importantly, they would offer pricing structures that aligned with actual value delivered, not arbitrary corporate profit margins. The team worked through dawn, refining details and addressing potential challenges. Legal protections were put in place to safeguard their intellectual property. Recruitment strategies were developed to attract top talent disillusioned with traditional corporate environments. Partnerships were arranged with universities and research institutions eager to collaborate on cutting-edge projects. As sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the exhausted but exhilarated faces of her team, Sophia felt a profound sense of purpose. This wasn't just about building a successful company, it was about creating a new standard for how technology companies should operate. Transparent. Innovative. Human-centered. Everything Paxton Global had refused to be. The chessboard was set, the pieces in motion. Paxton Global had taught her well, how to play the game, how to anticipate moves, how to calculate risks and rewards. But now she was writing her own rulebook, one that valued vision over tradition, merit over seniority, progress over profit. The game was about to begin, and for the first time in her career, she held all the cards. While her core team focused on technical development and strategic planning, Sophia dedicated her mornings to cultivating a network that would form the backbone of their revolution. She began with Maria's suggestion to target dissatisfied Paxton clients, but quickly expanded her outreach to include industry analysts, tech journalists, and influential bloggers who had grown weary of corporate spin. Each conversation was carefully crafted, not to disparage her former employer directly, but to highlight the limitations of current market offerings and hint at forthcoming innovations. Her first major breakthrough came during a casual breakfast meeting with Rachel Kim, a prominent tech columnist for Wired. Over artisanal coffee and avocado toast, Sophia artfully steered the conversation toward the challenges facing modern businesses trying to integrate AI solutions. "It's fascinating how many companies are stuck in this paradox," she mused, stirring her latte. "They want cutting-edge technology, but they're held back by providers who can't evolve beyond their own legacy systems." Rachel's pen hovered over her notebook. "You're talking about Paxton, aren't you? We've heard whispers about growing dissatisfaction among their top-tier clients." Sophia smiled enigmatically, choosing her words with precision. Let's just say there's a significant gap between what businesses need and what they're currently receiving. And sometimes, the most innovative solutions come from unexpected places. The column that appeared 2 weeks later, while not naming names, painted a damning picture of stagnation in the enterprise AI market. Meanwhile, James executed their cybersecurity strategy with military precision. Using his extensive network of ethical hackers, he orchestrated a series of controlled breaches on Paxton's older systems, each incident carefully designed to appear as routine maintenance issues. These seemingly minor disruptions created just enough doubt among Paxton's IT department to distract them from noticing the gradual implementation of quantum encryption protocols across their largest clients' networks. It's like performing open-heart surgery while the patient thinks they're just getting a flu shot. He joked during their weekly strategy meeting. Dr. Chen's contributions proved particularly valuable in undermining Paxton's technical dominance. Through his academic connections, he arranged for several high-profile research papers to be published, highlighting fundamental flaws in current AI processing methods, flaws that conveniently mirrored Paxton's existing architecture. At the same time, he began leaking hints about a revolutionary new platform that could achieve unprecedented processing speeds. The academic community buzzed with speculation, creating a groundswell of anticipation that would later translate into immediate credibility for their launch. Perhaps most crucial was Sophia's cultivation of relationships within Paxton itself. Years of professional networking had given her access to numerous employees who, like her, had grown frustrated with the company's resistance to meaningful innovation. These insiders became invaluable sources of information, providing real-time updates on internal panic levels and helping to identify key accounts ripe for poaching. She maintained these connections through discreet lunches and encrypted messaging apps, always careful to protect their anonymity. The media campaign gained momentum as influential tech podcasters and YouTube personalities began independently questioning Paxton's continued relevance in the rapidly evolving AI landscape. Sophia's team fed them carefully curated data points and anonymous expert opinions, creating an organic wave of skepticism that spread through social media channels. Industry forums lit up with discussions about the need for more adaptive AI solutions, while LinkedIn posts from respected figures in the field began referencing mysterious upcoming breakthroughs in enterprise technology. Financial pressure mounted as well. Through Maria's influence, several major institutional investors began expressing concerns about Paxton's R&D expenditures during shareholder meetings. The company's stock price wavered slightly each time another analyst report highlighted their declining innovation metrics. These fluctuations, while not dramatic, created just enough uncertainty to make potential clients question their long-term commitments to Paxton's platform. Most satisfyingly, Sophia watched as Paxton's leadership scrambled to respond to these mounting pressures. Emergency meetings were called, consultants were hired, and hastily assembled innovation task forces churned out press releases announcing groundbreaking initiatives that were little more than repackaged versions of existing technology. Each misstep only served to reinforce the narrative that they were struggling to keep up with the changing market demands. Yet for all these external maneuvers, Sophia devoted equal attention to building a positive foundation for their own company. She personally oversaw the development of their corporate culture, ensuring that every policy and practice reflected their commitment to genuine innovation and employee empowerment. Flexible work arrangements, transparent compensation structures, and genuine opportunities for professional growth became cornerstones of their organization. Word spread quickly through professional networks about the exciting new company that treated its people as partners rather than resources. As summer approached, the pieces of their complex operation fell into place with remarkable precision. Their beta platform performed beyond expectations, delighting early adopters with its intuitive interface and unparalleled processing capabilities. Client testimonials began circulating through appropriate channels, creating a buzz that traditional marketing could never achieve. Venture capital firms, alerted through Maria's network, started expressing interest in participating in their upcoming funding round. Through it all, Sophia maintained an outward appearance of calm professionalism, even as her mind raced with strategic calculations and contingency plans. She attended industry conferences, gave carefully calibrated speeches about the future of enterprise AI, and cultivated relationships with key players who would soon find themselves choosing sides in the coming market upheaval. Each interaction, each connection, each piece of information gathered added another layer to their intricate plan. The transformation of her daily life reflected the scope of their operation. Morning runs through Central Park became mobile strategy sessions with international partners. Afternoon meetings at trendy co-working spaces doubled as recruitment opportunities. Even casual dinners with friends often turned into valuable networking events. Every aspect of her existence became focused on the singular goal of not just competing with Paxton Global, but rendering their outdated approach obsolete. As June gave way to July, the pressure within Paxton Global reached a breaking point. Their quarterly earnings report revealed troubling signs. Client retention rates were slipping, new business acquisitions had stalled, and operating costs were rising as they frantically attempted to modernize their infrastructure. The boardroom where Sophia had once faced her demotion now hosted emergency meetings that stretched late into the night. Executives who had once dismissed her ideas now argued bitterly over which direction to take the company, each faction pointing fingers at the others for their current predicament. Whispers of discontent rippled through Paxton's workforce. Middle managers, sensing the shifting tides, began quietly updating their resumes. Junior staff members, inspired by rumors of a new company offering better opportunities, started forming informal support groups to prepare for potential transitions. The very foundation of Paxton's corporate culture, built on stability and tradition, began to crack under the weight of uncertainty and fear. During one particularly tense board meeting, Mrs. Hargrove slammed her fist on the conference table, scattering papers across the polished surface. "This isn't just about losing market share," she snapped, her usual composure shattered. "Our entire business model is being systematically dismantled. Someone out there knows exactly how we operate and is exploiting every weakness we've ignored for years." Mr. Whitaker's face paled as he realized the truth in her words. The woman they had tried to diminish was now orchestrating their downfall with surgical precision. Paxton's attempts to counterattack only hastened their decline. Their hastily assembled next-generation platform, cobbled together from outdated components and rushed to market, crashed spectacularly during a high-profile demonstration for key clients. The CEO's promises of unparalleled innovation rang hollow against the backdrop of increasingly sophisticated leaks about a competitor's superior technology. Investors grew restless, demanding explanations for declining performance metrics that couldn't be attributed solely to market conditions. The media smelled blood in the water. Business publications ran comparative analyses showing Paxton's gradual fall behind industry standards. Technology blogs dissected their failed initiatives with merciless accuracy. Even mainstream news outlets began covering the story, portraying Paxton as a cautionary tale of corporate hubris and resistance to change. Each negative headline drove more clients to explore alternative solutions, further accelerating their downward spiral. Inside Sophia's operation, the atmosphere crackled with controlled excitement. Their beta platform had exceeded all performance expectations, prompting several major clients to request immediate full-scale implementation. The team worked around the clock, balancing the demands of rapid expansion with the need to maintain operational secrecy until their official launch. Every success brought them closer to their goal, while simultaneously exposing Paxton's vulnerabilities. James monitored their progress with clinical detachment, his security dashboards displaying real-time data about Paxton's deteriorating infrastructure. "It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck," he commented during one of their daily briefings. "Every time they try to patch one hole, two more open up elsewhere." His team of ethical hackers continued their methodical exposure of Paxton's technical weaknesses, forcing them to divert crucial resources away from meaningful innovation. Dr. Chen's research team achieved a breakthrough that would prove decisive. By optimizing their neural network architecture to run on quantum processors, they achieved processing speeds that made Paxton's hardware look positively primitive. "This isn't just evolution," he announced during a late-night strategy session. "This is extinction-level advancement." The implications were staggering, not just for Paxton, but for the entire industry. Maria coordinated their financial strategy with ruthless efficiency. Through a network of shell companies and strategic partnerships, she funneled investment capital into their operation while maintaining plausible deniability about their ultimate intentions. Major venture capital firms lined up to participate in their series of funding round, drawn by the promise of backing the company that would redefine enterprise AI. The psychological toll on Paxton's leadership became increasingly apparent. Once confident executives now hesitated during presentations, second-guessing every decision. Their attempts to recruit top talent faltered as candidates learned about the more progressive opportunities available elsewhere. Internal communications grew increasingly paranoid, with accusations of leaks and espionage dominating every meeting. The very paranoia they cultivated worked against them, causing valuable employees to jump ship rather than weather the coming storm. Sophia watched it all unfold with a mixture of satisfaction and something approaching pity. She remembered the thrill of presenting innovative ideas to that same boardroom, only to have them dismissed or watered down. Now those same ideas, freed from corporate constraints, were reshaping the industry they had once dominated. The symmetry was almost poetic. The company that had tried to contain her vision was now being consumed by it. As August approached, the final pieces of their operation clicked into place. Their headquarters in Brooklyn buzzed with activity as teams worked tirelessly to prepare for launch. Marketing materials emphasized not just their technological superiority, but their commitment to ethical AI development and employee empowerment. Client testimonials poured in, each more glowing than the last. Industry analysts began predicting a seismic shift in the enterprise software market. The night before their official announcement, Sophia stood in her office overlooking the East River. The city lights reflected off the water, creating patterns that reminded her of neural network visualizations. Her phone buzzed with constant updates, server readiness checks, final client confirmations, media placement reports. Everything was proceeding according to plan, yet she felt an unexpected twinge of apprehension. Across town, in their glass-walled tower, Paxton's executives prepared for what they knew would be a devastating blow. Their emergency board meetings stretched into the early morning hours as they desperately sought ways to mitigate the impending disaster. The woman they had underestimated was about to teach them the true cost of undervaluing vision and innovation. The morning of the official launch dawned clear and bright, a perfect metaphor for the new era Sophia and her team were ushering in. As the sun rose over the East River, casting golden light across Brooklyn's skyline, Sophia stood at the center of their headquarters, a converted warehouse now transformed into a hub of innovation. The space buzzed with energy. Engineers fine-tuned final configurations, marketing teams coordinated social media rollouts, and client representatives prepared to onboard eager early adopters. At exactly 9 a.m., Sophia stepped onto a small stage in the main atrium, where her entire team had gathered. She wore no suit today, just a simple black dress that spoke of confidence rather than conformity. Behind her, a massive screen displayed their logo, Algorithmic Ascension. Beneath it, the tagline read, "Empowering progress through innovation." "Today," she began, her voice steady but charged with emotion, "we're not just launching a company. We're starting a movement. A movement to redefine what technology can do, and who it serves." Her words resonated through the room, earning nods and murmurs of agreement from her team. These weren't just employees, they were believers, united by a shared vision of ethical human-centered AI. As the presentation unfolded, the impact was immediate. Their platform wasn't just faster or more efficient, it was revolutionary. Real-time demonstrations showcased how their neural network architecture could process data streams in ways previously thought impossible. Clients watched in awe as predictive analytics delivered actionable insights within seconds, while intuitive interfaces made complex operations accessible even to non-technical users. It wasn't just better than Paxton Global's offering, it was an entirely different paradigm. By noon, the tech world was ablaze with excitement. News outlets heralded algorithmic ascension as the future of enterprise AI. Industry analysts declared it a game-changer, praising its seamless integration capabilities and transparent pricing model. Social media exploded with reactions from business leaders, academics, and everyday users alike. Within hours, thousands of companies had requested demos, and major enterprises began terminating contracts with Paxton Global en masse. Across town, chaos reigned in Paxton's boardroom. Executives stared in disbelief at reports of mass client defections. Their stock price plummeted as investors panicked, and internal communications revealed fractures in leadership. For years, they had dismissed Sophia as merely talented, but replaceable. Now, they faced the consequences of underestimating her brilliance and determination. But Sophia didn't revel in their downfall. Instead, she focused on building bridges. Over the next few weeks, she reached out personally to former colleagues still trapped in Paxton's crumbling structure, offering them positions at Algorithmic Ascension. Many accepted, bringing valuable expertise and fresh perspectives to her growing team. Others chose to strike out on their own, inspired by her example to pursue ventures they'd long dreamed of but never dared attempt. Meanwhile, Algorithmic Ascension soared. In its first quarter alone, the company secured partnerships with several Fortune 500 firms and attracted billions in venture capital funding. Clients praised not only the technology but also the culture Sophia had cultivated, one rooted in collaboration, transparency, and mutual respect. Employees described working there as transformative, citing opportunities for growth and genuine empowerment rarely found in corporate environments. 6 months after the launch, Sophia received an invitation to speak at a prestigious tech conference in San Francisco. Standing before a packed auditorium, she reflected on her journey. "When I started this company," she said, pausing to scan the sea of faces, "I didn't set out to destroy anyone. I wanted to create something meaningful, something that would challenge outdated systems and prove that progress is possible when you prioritize people over profits." The audience erupted into applause, but Sophia held up a hand, signaling for quiet. "This isn't about revenge," she continued. "It's about transformation. About showing the world that true innovation comes from listening, not controlling. From empowering, not exploiting." She smiled softly, her gaze settling on a group of young entrepreneurs seated near the front. "And if our success inspires others to dream bigger, work harder, and believe in themselves, then we've done far more than build a company. We've sparked a revolution." Back in New York, as autumn leaves painted the city in shades of gold and crimson, Sophia took a rare moment to reflect. From her office window, she could see the glimmering spires of Manhattan, including the tower where Paxton Global once reigned supreme. Its windows now seemed dimmer, overshadowed by the vibrant energy radiating from Algorithmic Ascension's headquarters across the river. Her phone buzzed with another notification, a message from Maria congratulating her on securing yet another high-profile partnership. But instead of responding immediately, Sophia set the device aside and looked around her office. Photographs lined the walls, snapshots of her team celebrating milestones, handwritten notes from grateful clients, and sketches of ideas that had evolved into groundbreaking solutions. Each one told a story of resilience, creativity, and triumph. For the first time in years, Sophia felt truly at peace. She hadn't just built a billion-dollar company, she'd created a legacy. One that proved that vision, courage, and integrity could overcome even the most entrenched resistance. And as she turned back to her desk, ready to tackle whatever challenge lay ahead, she knew this was only the beginning. Because revolutions, she realized, aren't defined by their victories, they're measured by the inspiration they ignite. And Sophia Alvarez had become a beacon of hope for anyone daring to dream beyond the limits imposed by fear and convention.